everybody, this is Laura, City Scrapper. Thank you so much for joining me on my channel. Today I have a layout that I made using the February My Creative Scrapbook limited edition kit. For this layout, I'm using a whole bunch of scraps that I have from working on other layouts in my kit and also some branding strips. The branding strips were already in strips, but the other papers had to be cut down, and I wasn't worried about keeping all the papers uniform because of the way I'm layering them on top of the circles, but I wanted to have some thin strips of paper, so I cut whatever smaller pieces of paper I had left. I got a whole bunch of strips. I inked the edges with some Distress Oxide. The color is Tattered Rose. I cut out a number of circles. I cut two that were 2¼ inch and two that were 3½ inches. I put some ATG adhesive on the back of the circle, and then I layered the strips on top. Now I'm trimming the edges so that I have a circle that's covered with these beautiful strips of pattern paper. To cut out the circles, I used Creative Memories circle cutting tools, and those circle cutters have been in my stash for a very, very long time, and I still use them regularly. I love the way you could cut one size circle and then cut another circle that's slightly larger or slightly smaller for layering, and that's what I'm going to do today. So I trimmed off all of the excess of the paper strips from around the circle, and now I'm going back in with some more Distress Oxide, and I'm inking the edges of those 4 circles that I created. But now I'm going to layer them on top of circles that are slightly larger. This white border helps to make the layout a little bit more readable. This Prima collection is absolutely gorgeous. There's not a huge contrast between the colors in this collection, so I like to use a lot of white so that the layout is readable and you could see the different shapes. When I had completed the 4 circles, I selected a number of ephemera and chipboard pieces that I thought I would use on this layout, and I again used my dauber and the Distress Oxide in Tattered Rose, and I inked the edges of all of these pieces. Not all of them end up on the layout, but most of them do. I like inking the edges of all of the elements on the layout. I think that it helps to create some contrast between the ephemera and the background, and then it also helps to bring the whole layout together. Here you could see the basic composition of the layout. I have the 2 circles on top of the photo and then the 2 circles below the photo. I have them on a diagonal, and I'm going to use a square photo. For this layout, I'm just going to have one large cluster, so I'm building that up with some ephemera and chipboard pieces on the top right-hand side of the cluster, and then I tuck a beautiful swan in right behind that smaller circle on the top. I absolutely love those swans, and I think that it fits really well right there. I just love the images of clips that are in this collection. There's one that's printed on the pattern paper that's over on the right-hand side of the layout, and I placed another one at the top, on the top of that largest circle, and I'm going to add another one a little later on to make a visual triangle. I used a chipboard doily right underneath where the photo is going to go, and I like that there because it's a little smaller than the smallest circle that I created, and it makes an odd number of circles, and I prefer the odd numbers over the even numbers for larger embellishments. I also used some ephemera bits that were hearts in 3 different colors, and I made a visual triangle from those as well. I had a couple of dark pink doilies in my stash, and I thought that they were just the right color for this layout, and I got lucky because I did not plan this, and they were just the right size to peek out from behind the back of the circles that I made. I used my ruler to make sure that circle on the bottom had its lines on a 45-degree angle, and I attached the 2 circles on the bottom down to the layout, but I am going to play around a little bit with the placement of that larger circle because I want the angel that's to the right of the circle to show, and right now it's getting a little bit covered up. And then I go around the layout and I attach down a number of the elements to the pattern paper in the background. And here you could see that I moved that large circle to the left a little bit so you could see that beautiful angel on the lower right hand side. I used some adhesive and attached down that piece of ephemera on the large circle on the bottom. It has some red numbers on it. I really like that piece of ephemera because I think it really provides some grounding for the photo, but I end up removing it because I put flowers in that area and I didn't want to end up wasting it because it would have been totally covered up. For my photo, I'm using a 4 by 4 inch picture. I have it mounted on some white cardstock and then again on some pink cardstock. And then I cut out a square piece of white cardstock and I emboss the edges using some tinsel gold embossing powder from Ranger. I chose gold because of the gold foiling on this collection. You could see on the lower right hand corner is the word sweetheart written in gold, and then there are some gold dots on the upper left hand corner. I like this color because it's very sparkly, although I do tend to get glitter all over my craft room when I use glittery embossing powders, but it's worth it. Usually I use fun foam, but for this layout, I'm using the leftover chipboard. That's the chipboard that's left over once you use up all of the chipboard pieces, and I use that to pop up my photo. It just gives it a very small amount of dimension. On most of my layouts, I use something to pop up the photo and give it a little bit of dimension. In this case, I use chipboard. Sometimes I use fun foam, and I always like to highlight the photo that way. But when I'm putting flowers like this on the layout, these beautiful Prima flowers in this case, it becomes even more important to give dimension to your photo so that those flowers will sit nicely next to the photo. That's something I learned from watching a lot of mixed media YouTube tutorials. I added an ephemera piece right under the large clip on the top. It says, "I will always love you, Pinky Promise." I love the angel that's now to the right of the photo, and I think she fits nicely in that spot. I took that chipboard doily and I cut a little sliver off of it so that it would fit nicely next to the photo, and then I used the piece that I cut off right next to the angel. I think that the layout is coming together, but I knew from the start I was going to add some gold leaves to this layout. I used some 80-pound smooth white cardstock. I used some dies that are made by Altenew. They're called Just Leaves. And I again use that Ranger embossing powder, which I think is called gold tinsel, not tinsel gold. And again, just like when I used it on the matting for the photo, it's very glittery and it's, I think, a nice complement to the pattern papers. So I'm spreading those around the page. In addition to the Just Leaves die, I also had another unbranded die, and I had made some leaves for another layout, and I thought I would mix those smaller leaves in with the slightly larger Altenew die cuts. In some cases, I'm using the whole die cut, and then in other cases, I trimmed the die cuts into smaller pieces. And I, in general, followed a diagonal pattern to go along with the circles on the page. Now I'm using some Golden Brand heavy gel medium. It's matte rather than gloss medium. And I'm attaching down the 4 flowers to the page. I think that's the best adhesive for attaching down those beautiful Prima flowers. Then I use gel glue. I put a little bit of glue at the base of each of the branches, and then I tuck them into the clusters of flowers and behind the circles. This is where I take that numbered ephemera piece off. I just didn't think it would be visible on the page. This is a photo of my older daughter Danielle and her boyfriend Max, and I thought this would be a perfect photo for this love-themed pattern paper. I don't use a separate title on this page because I was thinking in the upper right-hand corner it says Cupid's Heart. I thought that was a cute title and it seems rather prominent on the layout, and so I thought I would just go with that as the title for my page. Of course, you don't have to have a title on every page, but I do like to include a title, and I thought that worked and it was already there, so that's what I went with. I added a second set of die cuts. These are die cuts that are shaped like buds or berries. I don't know the manufacturer of these dies, but I do see a lot of very similar dies made by companies like Sizzix and Spellbinders. It's a great die to have to add some embellishments and some finishing touches to floral clusters. And then once I had all of the die cuts arranged where I want them, I used my gel glue and I, again, put a little bit of adhesive or glue on the base of the branch and then tucked them into place. I didn't mention it earlier, but I punched out some photo corners using my punch that's over to the right. That's an EK Success scalloped photo corner punch. And then I added some pearls to the two photo corners and also to the heart up on top. And I get these pearls in all different colors from the Eyelet outlet when I go to scrapbooking conventions in the summer. I think they're really handy to have available. Now the photo corners and the hearts that are on the page, they all have a pearl in the center. I wanted to add a little bit of glitter to the flowers, so I used some Opal glitter medium. That's something that I got from Hobby Lobby a while back when it was 75% off. I used to use Bow Bunny glitter paste, but I don't have any more. I used it all up, and this seems to work pretty well to make the flowers look shiny and sparkly. I have some really tiny pearls, and I found that those pearls fit perfectly on the little circles at the end of each branch. So I was thinking that I could just put one of these adhesive pearls on each one of those circles, on each one of the die cuts, and that would give the page a little bit more texture and make it look a little bit more interesting. I liked the color of those blue pearls that I put on the photo corners and the blue heart, but I decided that it was just a little bit too bright for this layout, and I decided to make all of the colored pearls pink. I switched those out, and then that is the last touch on this layout, and here are some close-ups. Thank you so much for watching this video, everybody. I really hope that you enjoyed watching it. If you take a look in the description box, you'll find links not only to the My Creative Scrapbook website, but to all of their social media. I love following them on Instagram. I can see all of the beautiful layouts that everybody on the team has created with all the different kits. I hope that you have a fantastic day, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.